Hey guys, Captain C.A. Richardson here, and welcome back to the FlatsClass YouTube channel. As you can see, we have got some weather today. In fact, there's a tropical depression that is sitting out in the Gulf of Mexico right now, and it's kind of like, I'm gonna say, cramping my style. So instead of being on the Tarpon Beach, I'm here doing YouTube videos in the boat barn. So what are we gonna talk about today? Well, there's a little bait, actually it's a 5-inch bait, but it's a bait that I use for inshore fishing on redfish, flounder, even catches trout. But I like to fish it real slow on some of those tougher than usual days when we start getting a lot of pressure on the flats, because school's out right now and everybody seems like they're not working, they're out fishing. So what bait could that be? Well, let's go over to the boat right there and let's talk about it. So you're probably wondering, what bass bait could the old captain be talking about? Believe it or not, it's a worm bait. This is the Z-Man Fatty Z right here. It's a 5-inch bait, but it has a little thin zone right here that allows that tail to really swing. And here's the packaging so you guys can see it right there. That's what you're gonna need. 5-inch Fatty Z. Now this is green pumpkin, which to me is a great default color. Probably my favorite one. It matches the grass. I usually work this bait in small potholes, sandy troughs, moats around oyster bars, because it looks like some type of invertebrate. Boy, that rain just will not stop. It looks like some type of invertebrate that fish like flounder and redfish would definitely eat, black drum. And even when I'm working it in checkered bottom where there's bigger trout, even they get curious and eat it as well. So how am I gonna rig this? If you really look close at the bait, you'll see that it has more of a rib-like body, so it's really good for scent, but on one side, it's flat. And the way I'm gonna rig this is I'm gonna take, in this case, a 4/0 extra wide gap hook. You could use a 3/0 if you wanted to. I just like having a little bit more bite. Honestly, I like having that wide gap, especially for bigger fish. But I'm gonna take, this is a Mustad grip pin hook, and I'm going to come in the top of this bait, like so, right at the top. Put it in there. And I like to come out, maybe a 1/4 of an inch or so out of the bait. Slide it up. And now I've got to show you part 2, because part 2, we're going to add a small tungsten 1/8 of an ounce, but sometimes I'll go down even lower than that. One of the characteristics or properties of Z-Man baits is it's made from a proprietary material called ElasTech. A lot of people aren't familiar with this, but by now you should be. But this ElasTech material allows this bait not only to be uber resistant to fish beating on it, but it gives it kind of a buoyancy issue, or benefit, I should say. So when this is lying on the bottom, that tail comes up, and especially where that thin spot is, that bulbous part will bend up just like that, and it's pretty cool. So one of the things I'm going to do is, a lot of times I work a lot of my Texas rig with a sliding weight going up and down, but this time I'm going to peg the bait. I've got to show you what we're going to use, because we're going to use a bobber stop. It's just that little black piece there, but you're going to see how I put it on. So let's work on that next. So when I put this bobber stop on, I'm going to take my tag end of my leader, because I may not have shared this with you, but I've been using fluorocarbon line quite a bit lately. And when you're fishing slow like this, it's pretty good advantage. And what I mean by fluorocarbon line, it looks like a lot like mono. So it's a great line. This is 14-pound fluorocarbon, and I've got a small piece of 30 tied to it. So I'm going to go through the middle here. I may even have to put my glasses on for this because it's small. So let me put my glasses on to just put this through, because these little keepers are tough to see. And what you do is you stick it through that little tiny loop there, and then you can push this up on your leader basically, and it'll go right on there. And just like that, now the bobber stop is on here. So I've got it where I need it. Okay, so the bobber stop's on there. Now I'm going to tie, or actually, I hate when I make that mistake. We're going to put this weight on next, because that's what's going to control the head of the bait, keep me tight to the bottom, because that's what I'm looking to do here. And then I'm going to tie a clench knot. I've been talking about that a lot, and the way I'm fishing this bait, a clench knot is not going to hurt me. So I'm going to tie a clench knot, go around a couple of times, just like so. Through the bottom loop and put it back through this loop. Got it? Take my pliers, cut it really tight because it's an improved clench knot. And then what I'm going to do, where in many cases with some paddle tails and stuff, I may let that bait, that weight slide. I'm going to take this bobber stop and I'm going to push it all the way down. That way it'll peg that weight. And I am going to come up on top of this bait. I'll show it to you here exactly what I'm doing. Find me a zone here where I can push this through. Skin it. And basically, this is what I have left right now. That's it. That's what I'm looking at. Now, what will happen when this sits on the bottom is this weighted piece of tungsten that is very sensitive. I mean, I can feel everything. You're like, how can you feel everything if you're using fluorocarbon, which I've kind of overrun here, not paying attention. But here's what I feel. When I'm working fluorocarbon with a bait such as this, I'll put my thumb like so, and I'll hold it so that I can feel that line with the tension reeling over my finger. So I might be just reeling it just like this, just reeling it. Feeling my way over the rock, feeling my way over the grass and dropping it in the pothole. But by keeping my finger right there, as you can see, if I keep my finger right there, I can feel everything because that tungsten is so sensitive. And by keeping my finger right there, and this is a higher end rod, this is a Terramar XX, but I can work that little worm very slowly. I'm just like barely reeling, lift, keep it in the zone, more or less dragging this bait, just lift, and then fall, lift. But that bulbous tail there that swings so easy, whether I'm swimming it or if I just set it on the bottom, that tail, because it's thinner in that last third joint, and I'll show it to you here, because it's thinner right there, okay, even when it's at rest, this thing is kind of like moving in the current real seductively, and it will make a redfish go mad, especially in this pumpkin, this darker color when it's over more sand or shell hash type bottom. It does a fantastic job. This is definitely one of my go-tos. I use this spring through fall and it works fantastic. You're saying, okay, so why the fluorocarbon? Well, the fluorocarbon, when I'm working a bait really slow like that, makes the line virtually invisible. It's not only invisible for them to see, it's also, they don't feel that braid, so there's not a sonic sound to it. I can just lift it over stuff, and as long as I keep that finger running over the top of the line where how I'm holding the reel and lifting it, I'll feel every little tap. So if there's something there, I'll reel down and I'll just hammer them. But that's why I wanted to have that 4/0 hook that has a little bit more bite. That way when I really hit them, I'll feel it. Now, what's the best rod setup for this? Honestly, it's gonna be a medium extra fast, or you're just gonna go to a medium heavy fast. And 7 foot to 7.5 foot rods are fine. I like a lot of 7 foot rods only because for me, it's a lot easier to make an accurate cast. But if you give the old Fatty Z a chance, I promise you, on some of those really tough bite redfish, I think you're gonna find out that you're having a lot of success. And you're gonna catch some of those incidental catches of flounder. Probably catch a couple of nice speckled trout that hang around those oyster bars. It's just one of those baits that you never think about from the freshwater world that definitely delivers in the inshore world. All right, if these little tips and advice and tactics are working for you and you're catching fish, share that information with your friends. Tell everybody about FlatsClass YouTube. We want to be the inshore authority for all of you. And if you'll do me the pleasure, please push that button, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you get our next video. It's my job to make all of you better inshore anglers. Until next time, Captain CA signing off.